Hey, gang! Go get this stuff so we can paint!
Color's my favorite thing in the whole world. I love color. Everybody loves color. But sometimes color's confusing because primary colors don't make any sense. See, I've got yellow, red, and blue, and they all look sweet together. They're the same ones you learn about in school. But when I mix them together to get orange, green, and violet, something's not right. The orange is bright, the green's dull, and the violet's meh. So what gives?
Hola, hermano.
Hola, senor. ¿Qué hora es?
No hablo español.
¿Qué?
Are you still under the impression that red, blue, and yellow are the primary colors?
Well, duh. It hasn't even been 2 minutes and you already got it wrong, butthorn.
Get out of here! What if I told you the primary colors are cyan, magenta, and yellow?
I'd say you're batting about 33%. What's going on? I've always been taught the primary colors are red, blue, and yellow, and now this mass meathead says I've got a failing grade.
I can still hear you.
I can tell already we're gonna need some help from a friend to sort this out. Jaques!
Hello everybody, I'm Jaques the Colorful Tortoise. Colors can be tough to organize, but if you divide my shell just right, it gets a lot easier. Show the mile, Soulkeeper!
With pleasure, Jaques! And to follow along, you're gonna need to draw your own Jaques, and you're gonna need a 24-pack of colored pencils. Now let's open these up and organize some colors so we can have a more balanced color wheel than the one that we all grew up with. I've got all my colored pencils laid out right here, but I'm gonna start simple. I'm just gonna start with the primary, so I'm gonna pick out yellow, and then I'm gonna pick out magenta, and I'm gonna pick out cyan. Let's start at the very top with yellow. Color in that top triangle. Press very firmly, because you want a bright color. You don't want dull color. No, no, no. Nobody wants dull color, baby. Make sure that pencil is nice and sharp. I want that sweet, sweet canary yellow. And this is looking pretty good. Once I'm done with that, I can set it aside. Now I'm gonna get out magenta. I'm gonna fill in this square just like this. Just the same way. It doesn't have to be super perfect or anything. We're just trying to make a respectable color wheel. And that color can be set aside now. Now, get out that cyan. And ooh, that is a color you do not see often. Yellow reflects a lot of green and red light, cyan reflects a lot of blue and green light, and magenta reflects a lot of red and blue light. That's why these make such excellent primary colors. With the primaries out of the way, we can move on to the secondaries. So let's pick out red, orange, blue, and green. Oops, there we go. And this time I'm going to look for the parts of the shell that are equidistant between the primary colors. So for this one right here, this part of the shell, I'm going to use red-orange, because when you combine yellow and magenta, you get a deep red-orange. That is the color that is equidistant between both of them. We know what this is. It's a color wheel. It helps you keeps track of things. It's good. It is very useful, and I highly recommend making one if you've never done it before. Okay, we can set that one aside. Now, move on to blue. Right here, equidistant between cyan and magenta is blue. Combine those two, that is the color you get. Honest. Believe it or not. I know, it's bananas, right? That is the way it is. Our first two secondaries are red, orange, and blue. Can you guess what the third one is? Okay, set blue aside. Now move on to green, because right smack between cyan and yellow is green. Try to color in one direction as much as you can. It makes things look a lot neater. Now that the primaries and secondaries are done, we can move on to the tertiaries. It helps just to ask yourself some very basic questions, such as, what's right between red, orange, and yellow? Well, orange, so orange goes right here. And then, what's between red, orange, and magenta? Well, red, of course. A very deep red. Now, what's between magenta and blue? Well, you combine the two, you get violet. And what comes between cyan and blue? Well, you're going to have a very greenish blue, just like this one. This is sort of a sky blue, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. Now, between cyan and green, of course, is green-blue. Now, what comes between yellow and green, I wonder? Well, we only have one color left. It must be yellow-green. Oh, I should have seen that coming. I hope you're loving your color wheel too. And I hope that colors are making a little bit more sense right now. Or at least, if not, by the end of this, I hope they will be. We're almost done, but there's still one color we gotta get. Black. And this blank spot in the middle, this is where black's gonna go. This color wheel is based on visual complements. So, two colors opposite each other on this color wheel will always look great together. And if you want to know how to mix a color, find where it is on this color wheel and then look at the two colors next to it. And of course, art materials are subtractive. That means that the more colors we mix together, the darker it gets, hence black in the middle. There. And here we have a beautiful, ever so useful color wheel. And now, whenever you're having trouble remembering what color mixes what, you can refer back to Jaques. Ah, great. Luchador was right. It's no fun being wrong, you know?
You see, now your primary colors are balanced.
Nope, I don't know what you're talking about. Things were just fine the way they were.
You just said I was right.
No, I didn't. I was talking to the turtle. This is red, this is blue, and your so-called color theory is just a theory, not a fact.
He's too stupid to know how stupid he is.
Where are you going, old boy?
Oh my god! I told all the other artists about my new primary colors, and it did not go well. Especially when I started talking about magenta. Let me show you what I showed them. And to do this one, you're gonna need some acrylic paint. One color, plus black and white. As you can see here, I've got my canvas divided up into squares already. And I'm going to use these squares to decide where I want to lay down tints or tones or pure color, whatever. I hope you've got your canvas, your ruler, and your acrylic paints ready, because we're going to be creating Albert squares. Now, I'm going to dip my brush into a little bit of pure magenta, and I'm going to paint this entire section right here, just pure magenta. And I'm going to use wide strokes, big as they can be. There. That's looking pretty neat so far, I think. That's not bad, but now that I'm ready for the tones, I think I want to bust out the masking tape and see if I can make this a little neater. Now that I have my tape applied so that my lines are going to be a little cleaner, and I've got a little bit of paint mixed up with black and magenta, I think it's time to set down a tone. And I think I'm going to do it right here. There we go. That's a nice, that looks like a nice violet, doesn't it? Yeah, that happens when you mix magenta with black. It looks a little purple. That's okay. That's okay indeed. We're mixing a tint now, so that means you want to add a little bit of white to your magenta. With a little bit of magenta mixed with trusty titanium white, let's cover up this area, this exposed area. And after we're done, we'll have a very, very clean line. With that first tint complete, I want to go back to the first two colors I laid down, and I'm going to put a darker tone on top of them, but I'm going to use the same tone for both of them. This might create some visual trickery, but trust me, it's going to be the same tone. Okay, this one isn't going to be totally perfect, but let's lay it down diagonally, just like this. Ooh. Okay, that's cool. And let's do the same thing, down here. There. That looks nice. Just keep creating these diagonal lines equally spaced across this entire piece, going this way, and then we're going to repeat it going this way, like so. Cool, the crisscrosses on the border look pretty good. I think it's time to add some lines in the magenta in the center, and this piece is going to be good to go. So let's start with this one right here. Whoop. And this one. Yeah. Those lines we just did on both the border and the pure magenta, they're all the same tone, honest. Now, let's mix up another tone, and I'm gonna go at it in the center, and after that's done, ooh, then comes the final highlight, baby. Yeah. No tape this time, man. I'm just gonna have to use my ever so steady hand to make this happen. Starting off with a really dark tone. Something not quite the same as the border, but also different from the lines that I just laid down on the border and the magenta in the center. Okay, come on, yeah. Here comes the difficult job of laying in this lighter tone. Oh man, I think I want to start with the hardest part first, just so I can get it out of the way. After that, it's easy sailing. Woo! And this tone is going to be just ever so lighter than the tone beside it. It's just a little bit of an experiment to see how it will look once we're said and done. That looks pretty good. We're almost done! All that's left is the final highlight. Mix a lot of white with your magenta and you'll be all set. This one I want to be especially careful on because there's no correcting this one, I'm afraid. I have to get this as right as I possibly can. So, Soulkeeper, you better color inside the lines, buddy. I can do it. I can do it and so can you. This isn't so bad. And you know, even if you do screw it up a little bit, so what? You still learned something, didn't you? Of course you did. You learned about values and color, or value as it applies to colors. And that's an important concept to learn. There. With that final highlight, I think this piece is complete. Great job. I knew you could do it. This one was a little tough, I bet, but with a little practice, you're going to get the hang of it. The other artists, though. I didn't think it was a big deal bringing up magenta, but as soon as I did, they raised their maul sticks and started swinging their palette knives and chased me away from the easel.
What? Hello there, old boy!
What do you want? I told a lot of you I was done with the academy.
Oh boy, nobody's ever really done with the academy. Now, what's this I hear about you giving up the primary colors?
I'm not giving them up. I just said they weren't right.
No, I think you need to have yourself a cool drink and settle down.
That sounds like a pretty good idea. So why don't we take the Old-Timey Painter's advice and cool off with our next project? It's feeling pretty hot, so let's take a cool drink. Get ready to take a swim. Because for this piece, we're going to be creating Matisse cutouts. For this project, we're going to need our acrylic palette. We're going to need a big paintbrush like this so we can paint the paper really easily. We're going to need 6 pieces of paper so we can get all the colors painted out before we cut them. And of course, we got to have a pair of scissors or else we're never going to be able to cut it all. And last but not least, man, we got to get our acrylic paints. But this time it's going to be a little different. Remember during the last project we worked with tints and tones in a single color and we did a monochrome painting. Well, we're still going to work with tints and tones this time around, except we're going to do it a little differently. As you can see here for my acrylic paints, I chose white again, of course, but then I chose cyan and I chose red-orange. Mixing complements are really easy to figure out. Just look at the color wheel you learned in school and it'll be a cinch. Yellow neutralizes with violet, blue neutralizes with orange, and red neutralizes with green. Why don't we get started on this Matisse cutouts project now, and we can have some fun together. Job. I knew you could do it. Prep work is so tedious, but it does make the rest of the project so much more fun. And speaking of prep work, be sure you rinse off your brush after you paint with acrylics, because if acrylic paint dries on your brush, it's not going to be any good, because your brush is not going to be usable then, and it's not going to come off your brush without a lot of effort. So, again, be sure you rinse. And with that, we can take our acrylic paints, our acrylic palette, and set all this stuff aside. Because guess what? We only need a pencil and some scissors now. Because now, we're going to do our Matisse cutouts. There we go. Now I'm ready. The first part of my design is going to be the easiest part, because all I'm going to do is set down the pure cyan paper. So, easy enough, right? Now, I think I want to take my light brown paper and... ooh, I'm going to draw what I think looks like coral reef. So, I'm going to line it right up with the paper because I want this shape to line up with the edges on my cyan paper. So, right in the middle here, I'm going to draw that there, and I'm going to make another shape there, and another shape right here. And with the outline of my shapes drawn, I can cut these shapes out now. Let's just cut around the lines as usual. Why would we cut anywhere but the lines? That just wouldn't make any sense, now would it? No, it would not. That would not make any sense at all. And we can just turn the paper, because why not? Now that I have my shapes cut out, I can apply some glue to them. Stick these on just so. The way I intended them to be. Good job, 2 papers down. And now we're going to do the same thing. Draw, cut, glue. For the next part of this, I'll get out the dark brown colored paper, and now I'm going to draw some circles on it, because I want it to look like there's a bunch of holes in this coral reef right here. No, I'll just draw them any old shape, really. It doesn't really matter. I just need a whole bunch of circles. Small shapes are hard, but just do the best you can. I don't want mine to be perfectly round anyway, so it all works out. I decided to cut it short at 7 because, you know, odd numbers tend to be more interesting than even numbers, and frankly, with the design that I have in mind, I don't really need that many of these. But I need a few, because it's going to help break up some of that negative space. There. Halfway there! You are doing such a good job. Don't stop. You can do it! Let's get out the red-orange paper. And this is probably gonna be the hardest part of the whole thing. Although, really, is it ever really gonna be that hard? Nah. It'll be easy enough. We can do this. It's totally doable. I'm gonna draw a fish. A nice orange fishy. I love that. And let's give him a curve right here. And the suggestion of a fin. That is splendid. Let's cut this one out. Yeah, the nice thing about this way of creating art that Matisse kind of made up, it really makes you focus on color relationships and value relationships. I really like that about it. This is the hardest shape so far, but just take it slow and you can do it. There we go. This piece is really coming together, isn't it? I'd say so. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Now, we aren't going to use a lot of this black paper that we created, but I am going to draw an eye. Now let's try drawing another one. There. I want kind of a big eye. And then I want another big eye. And then, what do I want? I want a shape that looks like a mouth. This project is really coming together. Let's glue these pieces on and get the next sheet of paper. Why is my mouth lopsided? It's because I didn't take time to draw it carefully, Fishy. You're just gonna have to make do with what you got. Be grateful I don't make you cross-eyed. Okay, there you go. You are a handsome fish, buddy. We're almost there! You're on the home stretch! And the last piece we got here is the light cyan one, and I've got some plans for this one. We're gonna draw a small circle there, slightly bigger circle there, an even bigger circle here, and then the biggest circle right up here. It took a lot of cutting, a lot of painting, but it's finally finished, and it looks so cool. Wow, you killed it on this one, man. You're getting the hang of tints and tones, you're getting the hang of monochrome, and you're getting the hang of mixing complements. I know that this one was a little tougher than the last one, but it does make sense because these things get progressively harder. Don't worry though, you're gonna get it. And you got 2 projects to show for it already. Well, 3 if you decide to make your own Jaques, and I hope you did, because Jaques helps so much.
Hey, barkeep! I'll have what he's having! You appear in good health aside from the jaundice. Make it yourself! If you can reach the counter, that is. Oh, my old boys! I'm sensitive about my height!
Here, buddy. Have some of mine.
Wow! Is this the key to creativity? Be right back! terrible.
Dude, are you for real?
Maybe if you stop drinking, you could be as good as I am. enjoy playing with markers too! What are the odds of that? This is much more like it! My last project was a real stinker!
You know, the point of playing with them is understanding visual complementary and analogous colors and using color value to create an effective design.
Really? Well, I value yellow because it's my ideal complexion. What do you think? Do I need a tan? Okay. I value red and blue too. I mean, you're gonna run out of yellow eventually.
Splod, I must speak by the card, or equivocation will be my undoing.
Old boy, it's good to see you've embraced the primary colors. Now, we can get to the business of making art.
No, Sir Keever. The true path is difficult, but do not sell your soul. You know the true primary colors, and soon the rest of the world will too. Always keep preaching, never give up. Who dares?
I find you dishonorable, sir, and I challenge you to a duel.
Any man who dares to slap the face of Senor Pintor is in dire need of having his body broken.
Unhand me, you ruffian!
I
think that's my cue to leave.
You will be invalid sipping soup restaurant.
You know, the way we see colors and the way colors mix are related, but sometimes it's not so obvious why they're related. If you've ever been in a science classroom, you've probably seen a chart of the electromagnetic spectrum, BFD, right? But look at the frequency around 10 to the 14th power. That's our spectrum of visible light. A lot of the red and violet at both ends gets cut off because the red and violet beyond a very specific range of frequencies and wavelengths extends into the infrared and ultraviolet range. The colors across the visible spectrum are pure, so imagine the colors you have unmixed and you get the idea. Everything we see reflects or emits wavelengths. In the stovetop's case, it emits wavelengths in the ballpark of 1000 Kelvin, while my daylight bulb emits wavelengths around 5000 Kelvin. Notice that at higher temperatures, the wavelengths become blue. When you see color, light hits the rods and cones in your retina. That signal travels along the optic nerve to the occipital lobe in the back of your brain. Rods don't play much of a role in color vision. They're more about night vision. Cones are responsible for color vision, and there's three types. S cones, which are most sensitive to blue-violet wavelengths, M cones, which are most sensitive to green wavelengths, and L cones, which are most sensitive to greenish-yellow wavelengths. Color mixtures are informed by the light our materials reflect, and our eye is stimulated by light to varying degrees. The color yellow reflects mostly yellow light, but also red, orange, and green light. The color green reflects mostly green light, but also blue, cyan, and yellow light. When yellow and green paints are combined, the red and orange reflectance is reduced while the green reflectance is bolstered and the yellow reflectance remains strong. Your eye interprets this as an increase in M-cone stimulation. You can make an educated guess about what light a color reflects based on its appearance. A cyan color mixes violets with magenta and greens with yellow that are about equal saturation, so it reflects cyan, blue, violet, and green light. A magenta color mixes oranges with yellow and violets with cyan that are about equal saturation, so it reflects red, violet, and orange light. And yellow, you already heard about that one. Try to keep up. When we think about material colors in relation to visible light, it helps to take the spectrum and turn it into a circle called a color wheel, because of the circular way colors mix. Yellow and magenta make red-orange, cyan and magenta make blue-violet, and cyan and yellow make green and repeat into infinity.
You understand color harmony. You know how colors mix and why. You know what primary colors really are. You've got a handle on color temperature, and you even have color value in your back pockets. You know so much about color, and now it's time to put it all together. I hope you're ready, because we're really going to express ourselves now. Get out some Conte crayons, or if you have pastels, those will work too, because we're going to be working with expressionism. I don't want you to think too hard about all the specifics of all that we've learned already. I want you to feel it. I want you to express yourselves and feel the emotions while you're doing this. When you get your box of Conte crayons, make sure that it has an AP symbol on the front. That means it's non-toxic. You really want that box to be non-toxic, because if it isn't, it's going to create all kinds of problems for you, because the dust from these things is going to be very toxic to breathe and it's going to hurt you. Please make sure you are using non-toxic pastels or non-toxic Conte crayons. Now let's open this up and decide what colors we want to use. I've already decided, but if you want to use different colors for your own piece, by all means. As you can see over here, I've got all my Conte crayons, and I decided that I want to use a lot of blues and a lot of yellows. It might seem like I chose a lot of colors, and I did, because you have to have a lot of colors when you work with Conte crayons or pastels, because there's just not a lot of color mixing. So I had to pick everything from light and dark shades of blue and cyan to light and dark shades of yellow, orange, and yellow, and even white. So now I have a variety to work with, and that's what I want, and that's what you want too if you want to work with Conte crayons or pastels. Now, why don't we take a look at the drawing I prepared, and we can get started on this piece. Alright, since Conte crayons are opaque, I want to start from dark to light. So I'm going to take, my dark blue, feeling brave here, and I'm going to outline some of the stuff on the shirt that I drew. I love starting with an outline because I don't want my details to get lost. Let's go along the edge here. I don't want to get too much of the edge because I'm still going to insert some lights. And even if I do get the edge, I can still go over it with one of my lighter pastels or my lighter Conte crayons later, because it's an opaque medium. I have that option if I so choose. Let's do this. When you make this, I want you to think outside the box. Get abstract, get crazy, go where your imagination takes you. The thing about this is I want to get some colors everywhere, because this isn't just a normal, average, everyday image. This is an abstract, it's a fun image. It's really abstract, and it's really nuts. And God, I'm just gonna juxtapose all these crazy colors all over the place. Coloring means you gotta make some big decisions, and it's important because every color you use relates to the next color. When you pick a paper, you want something that has a little bit of tooth to it. You don't want one of those regular old printer paper types that are real smooth and don't have any texture to them. You want something with tooth, like the Canson paper that I'm using here. When I want to cover large areas, I turn my Conte crayon on its side here, and I just rub it. If I want a finer line, I turn it upended, so it's pretty easy to figure out. It's not too hard to figure out how to make art with Conte crayons. Now I'm just building up some yellow so that I have a good reference point for the rest of the piece.
That way, it'll be a lot easier to judge what colors I should use next against this yellow. And also, I can still color over it with either my yellow-orange or my lighter yellow. As you color, ask yourself, have I used this color somewhere else in the drawing? And if not, use that color someplace else or surround it with colors that you did use. To create a cylinder feel on Doppelkiefer's hair here, what I did was I outlined with my cyan, my deep cyan, and then I just colored in with a little bit of light blue on the edges here, and I left the middle blank, just completely white. And then I'm going over that light blue with a little bit of some dark middle cyan. The drawing's over half done. Great job! Let's finish the background now. What I'm doing to create the beard is I'm doing a bunch of spirals of different colors. Like here, I'm introducing a bunch of different lines of brown. And what I might do then is introduce a bunch of different lines of a lighter brown. And I want them to overlap a little bit. Some of them will be just doing their own thing. Some will be wherever. And depending on how the spirals are clustered, it will indicate shading on the beard. Let's get out some dark orange now. I want to go up here into this blank area with so much space. And I want to insert some more interesting stuff. I feel like, we're going to get real creative here. This isn't going to be anything too recognizable. I'm just going to get real nuts. I'm going to put in a deep yellow-orange. Think of all the designs you can make. Nothing is too outrageous. And if your drawing doesn't work out, don't worry about it. You can make a new one. The important thing is that you learn from your mistakes. Let's take a chance. As I say, there's no shame in taking a chance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some blue like this, and then I'm going to put a lot of white over it. But I'm not going to color this part where I've already drawn a little bit of white to indicate where that highlight is going, because I want it to be very pure white. I don't want to mess it up. Okay. Now we got that. Here goes nothing. We're almost done. One last thing, and we'll be finished. Now, let's put the coup de grace on this. Let's draw a little bit. I'm gonna put a big outline around him. Here it comes, although you might have to press pretty hard to work through all the layers we've done. With that, I think this piece is done. Great job! I knew you could do it! This type of project is so hard. It's a little bit Kandinsky, a little bit Matisse, very colorful, very abstract, and oh so very expressionistic. It is so hard to do, especially if you've never done it before. But if you just stick with it, you can do this. You can own it. But before you get all excited and show all your friends and family your new project, be sure that you get yourself a can of spray fixative, because if you use pastels or Conte crayons, it can get very messy in a hurry, especially if you lift your paper up. So, shake it up and get ready to spray.
That doesn't look anything like me!
Oh, I don't know. I think it captures the essence of you.
Oh, really? Well, in that case, I think I captured your essence too! I think it's some of my best work!
Striking resemblance, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I'll strike your resemblance!
I've come to settle our score, our duel, mano a mano. Very well, choose your weapons, eh? These are my weapons, and they will break you. Old boy, this was meant to be a battle of wits. Instead, it will be a battle of hits.
I wish I hadn't seen that.
any of this. This was an act of foolishness is going to come to an end right now. This scene is under the jurisdiction of Officer Thaddeus Jaques, Art Demonstration Division. Now you there, turn off that camera right now. Turn it off, I say. Go!